final set of regular season with one game to go. We'll have rankings next week, I should say, actually. But I don't know where I was going with that. I was thinking this is the end of the road.
You're not going to do them through the bowl games and stuff.
Not through the bowl games, although we do a post-bowl game one I think we could do, right?
Yeah, I think
because
so.
of just kind of where people are at that point.
Yeah, I think so. I think depending on how long whoever it is goes, yeah.
I had it in my head. Final week of the regular season, final rankings. I'm wrong. I'm so caught up in the giddiness for Oklahoma State fans of this Eric Morris hire. I'm just basking in the glow of this all that my mind's all over the place and also thinking about vacation. But, hey, let's get into these Mojo rankings for this week. This will not be the final set, despite what I just said a second ago. We'll have the final regular season set next week and then probably post-championship, post-bowl ones as well. So starting off, didn't have this news we just had a second ago.
Yeah.
And maybe it would have made a slight difference. Maybe I would have finally bumped Oklahoma State out of the number 16 spot. But then again, probably not, because wins still matter, and you have not won a Big 12 game in 2 years. And so Oklahoma State still, man, so close yet so far away. It looked like they finally had that elusive conference win in hand last week, up 14-0 in the first half on UCF. And then here came the Knights, putting up 17 in the second half, including a kick at the end to win the game, and just a kick in the gut. I know one thing, the Zane Flores to potentially Drew Mestemaker, like the comparison that we will have potentially, keyword potentially, I don't know if there's a greater difference that could be had, honestly, than going from potentially Zane Flores to Drew Mestemaker. But either way, even if Mestemaker is not tagging along with his head coach, Eric Morris is going to find a great quarterback, and they're not going to have a problem with quarterback play in Stillwater, Oklahoma for the foreseeable future. They have had plenty of problems with that and seemingly everything else this season. So, look, this has been a long 2-year run of bad, and there are brighter days ahead. So next week, we'll see kind of how it shakes out. But Oklahoma State, pre-Eric Morris news and even post-Eric Morris news, still the number 16 team based on no wins in Big 12 play. Colorado stays put where they are as well. And look, they got the little bit of a bump with Dion announcing that he was going to be coming back. And I think that's incredible news for that program, for the Big 12. I think it's good for college football as well. But they are just not a very good football team, and he's got a lot of work to do this offseason. You look at just the string of losses, and then last week, Arizona State absolutely pummels them after kind of a slow start. You thought, okay, maybe Colorado makes it interesting, and eventually it's 42-17, and that's all she wrote. So now they, with no bowl game in sight, obviously that's been the case for a little while now, but they head to Manhattan to close this thing on out against a K-State team that I don't know what to expect from them, quite frankly, this weekend with all the emotions running crazy. But Colorado stays pat. UCF stays pat as well, and looked very much for a little while like they would be the number 16 team this week when they were down 14-0, but they salvaged that win. And, maybe you could flip them in Colorado, but Colorado, again, they lost 42-17. So I don't want to credit you for that in some way. And then Baylor, if there was one reaction to last week, is that they probably should have dropped a bit more. And that was before Arizona kicked their head in the second half, thanks to multiple turnovers, no defense whatsoever. And then you have the Linda Livingstone letter on the Friday before the game and just all that came with that. I think from an actual feeling of the fan, they might be 16 right now.
I'm telling you,
easily
flip them.
You could flip 16 and 13 easy.
Yeah.
Based on the news we just got an hour ago on Eric Morris. By the way, real quick on Colorado, Juju Lewis not going to start this week, going to preserve the red shirt.
Smart.
Smart move on his part. But yeah, I could we have to make the graphics well beforehand.
Yeah.
But I think if you had an hour to come in and that happened at 2:00, you could have answer Baylor is 16th, Oklahoma State's 13th with an arrow up because they just got Eric Morris.
From a pure off the field feeling right now, they're the 16th team in the league.
Yeah.
They're also, though, playing for a bowl game. So wins have to matter.
Yeah.
It still has to matter. So Colorado's out of it. UCF still technically playing for a bowl game. And then you got Oklahoma State, who's obviously been out of it. So Baylor, I dropped them 3 spots. But, yeah, you could make an argument they should be dropped even further with just the way that things are kind of feeling right now.
Remind me later, I have a quote from Robert Allen. We know Robert's an insider, was a huge Cundy guy, about some of the tie-ins at Oklahoma State and North Texas State with Eric Morris and former players. I think you got to flip them. I think that -3, you just take them 3 down below that. I know this was before, but yeah, it's amazing how things can change the emotions.
Yeah, I mean, can't change it now. So Baylor at number 13 and still dropping 3 spots. And how bad is it? I've dropped them 3 more spots, and you're going, no, they should be lower still. And I do think that the Eric Morris hire kicks them in the what's even further, because that's a guy you're going to look, if he has success, there's going to be that conversation of, remember when we kept Aranda?
Yep.
And we didn't move on Eric Morris, when we've had multiple people now say that he would have been interested in that job from multiple media outlets.
Yeah, multiple.
Yeah, like not even a question about it, like not a rumor, like factual, and they didn't make a move. And so we'll see how that plays out for both these sides. But I dinged them 3 spots, and it's still probably not enough, but they are playing Houston for a chance to go to a bowl game this week. On to the next grouping here. And I dropped Baylor, so it bumped a few teams up, just out of necessity, quite frankly. But things aren't exactly going great for Lance Leipold in Kansas. Another 5-win team trying to get into a bowl game this week. Got destroyed last week by Iowa State. They've lost back-to-back road games against Arizona and Iowa State. Okay, those are pretty good teams. Just turn around and get into a bowl game. All right, how do we go about doing that? Go beat Utah at home. So that's what they're looking at this weekend. But they benefit from Baylor's slide and really nothing else because, well, they lost last week by 24 points. So not much mojo going on there. West Virginia, I think theirs is big picture. They're a big picture of recent commitments, young quarterback, no controversy surrounding your head coach. You've been competitive, gave Arizona State a hell of a game, and I just think that things are trending upwards for them, maybe at a slow pace, but you took Arizona State to the end there with a chance to maybe pull off a big upset, and fell short of that. But that was after you beat Houston in Houston, you beat Colorado, so just narrowly missing out on 3 consecutive wins. Had they beat Arizona State, they would have been looking at a game against Texas Tech this week regardless, where they'd be trying to get bowl eligible, and that was not going to happen. But at home, maybe crazy things do happen in Morgantown. Texas Tech fans sure hope that's not the case, and I don't think that'll be the case. But they go up a spot, and Kansas State, despite the loss, what a valiant effort against Utah. This is just a bump for Joe Jackson alone and the performance that he put on. And I didn't love when I initially saw the climbing thing. Over the last couple days, I've just let it sit more, and I understand it's just him being emotional. I don't think it's a knock on him. I think it's heavy pressure, and I do think that if this continues on with him being as emotional as he is, I do think we need to go dude, do you need to go to D2 and just coach like college football with a lot less stakes, because this is too heavy for you, I think. I don't know that we're there yet, but I do think that's a conversation that's around the corner if things continue trending this direction.
Or take a break.
Or just take a break.
Figure it out. And, when I said yesterday that was the most Midwestern, emotional breakdown you'll see, that's a common thing for people who grow up in the Midwest. They like to really kind of tamp down those emotions. And then when they come out, they don't even come out really all the way. That's what I saw from him as a guy who's been kind of swallowing a lot. And then, he had a bit of a bubble, a little bit of a volcanic eruption, and then everybody is kind of waiting for the rest of it, and then it just kind of mellows back down. And he is going to have a very difficult offseason trying to retain players that are going to be in demand. All of that's coming up, and that's not going to make the feelings that you have right now any easier to deal with.
No, I don't think so either. So that's something to monitor. But Andrew with that emoji, I just now noticed that you are cold-hearted, man.
You know what?
Andrew's like a freaking serial killer back here,
assassin.
just cold-hearted and emotionless.
The skulls.
God, I just picked up on that.
Baylor's crying. The bear. That's a powerful animal that's crying. Oh,
brutal. So I just want you to know, I put the rankings together. I did not put the sticker attached to it.
It's like a columnist who writes a great column, and the headlines are written by the editor.
Exactly. He's writing the headlines here. But yeah, there was a lot of emotion obviously going on. And look, there's a lot of K-State fans that hated him crying, and that they felt that was alone. Get him out of here. We're done here. So that conversation will continue. But these teams, they're all in the same place basically. It's just that with Baylor in particular, they're on such a slide that even others losing, they're benefiting from that slide. And then Cincinnati, Talk about slides. I mean, they are on as much of a slide as anybody else right now. And you look at the last 2 years of Scott Satterfield and the starts in the first half of the year and the way they finish things. Now, last year, you got to 5 wins and you just lost out. I think they were 5-1, I believe, and they lost out and missed a bowl game. This year, they got comfortably to 7 wins, and it was never in question. But since they've got the 7 wins, they lost at Utah, which, hey, it's at Utah, but you lost by 31 points. You turn around, you lose to Arizona at home, and then you turn around, you lose to BYU in a game, which I give credit to LJ Martin in particular and BYU, but Cincinnati threw up all over themselves in this game. They made so many self-inflicted mistakes that they gave themselves no chance to win this game and only lose by 12. So they get knocked a couple spots. They've got TCU on the road this week, but at least they're in the postseason. They're staring straight at 4 straight consecutive losses, though, if they're not careful. So there is a grouping number 2 there.
Yeah, I think you got it right. I mean, again, there's really only one on this right column here. Only one team that woke up this week feeling happy, and it was Oklahoma State, and that wasn't until an hour ago.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was an hour ago. Literally, they've been number 16 the entire season, I think. Colorado's they're not good. UCF's not good. Baylor's a mess all over the place. Kansas is not good right now. West Virginia's looking up. K-State's emotional, and Cincinnati's sliding, whereas they were in Big 12 contention, and now they are very much out of that as we enter the final week. On to the second grouping as we start to round this thing out. Houston drops 4 spots. 4's pretty heavy, but Houston's been kind of dangling with their ranking. They were playing maybe above their heads a little bit early on, got off to that 4-0 start, then lost to Tech, then reeled off 3 more wins. They're 7-1. But over these last 3 weeks, you lost to West Virginia at home. You turn around and you were able to eke out a game in Orlando against UCF 30-27, but then turn around and lose just an ugly game last week at home again to TCU, and now you have Baylor here. So they're 8-3, but I just don't feel like they've had like a good mojo. They lost 2 out of their last 3, barely survived the trip to Orlando. So they have not been playing their best football here as of late, and you can't be ahead of TCU when TCU just beat you last week. So TCU up a couple spots. Iowa State also up a couple spots. If they started to get their mojo back with back-to-back wins, beating TCU in Fort Worth, beating Kansas by 24 points last week, after that middle section where Iowa State went from contender to just totally out of it with 4 consecutive losses, they've now rebounded and started to right the ship a little bit. And then Arizona, perhaps the best turnaround in the league this year, with where they were just kind of at the back end a year ago, first year in the league, to now they're like, dude, if all things are equal, I'm taking Arizona. I'm just not taking them against like the teams that I think are a step above, like Texas Tech, BYU, or Utah. And then we'll see with Arizona State this week. I think that's a coin flip game and ought to be a hell of a showdown.
Yeah, they're looking at 9-3 right in the face.
Yeah,
they're looking at
10 wins with a bowl game
right in the face with Brent Brennan, and everybody, because they didn't have all the parts and they lost some. Obviously, Texas and Washington came for a couple of guys like Takario Davis and the defensive tackle, and heck, the coach that they went and got and all that. But now that he's had a year to kind of balance out those big losses, even losing Tedero McMillan,
right,
who's one of the best young players in the NFL right now, too, that shows the guy can coach.
I saw Jason Shear, I think it was, our buddy who covers Arizona, and most Big 12 fans know him. But I saw him make a comment, or he's responding to a comment, maybe it was yesterday, of Noah Fafita is the best quarterback in the Big 12 this year. And you think about that initially, you're like, no, he's not. But look around. Like, who's been all that impressive? And Noah Fafita's been really good. Like, quietly, really good. Not quietly if you've watched Arizona, but he doesn't hurt his team nearly as much as a lot of other guys do around this league. Sorsby and Robertson and Hoover from time to time. Noah Fafita's been very solid. I don't know that I'd say he's the best quarterback in the league, but I don't think he's probably gotten nearly enough attention this year for how solid he's been. So I thought that was a good point brought up by Jason Shear and or whoever he was responding to.
The best passing efficiency is Baron Morton, but Fafita's not that far behind.
No, and Baron Morton's in that conversation as well when he's been able to be out there.
Yep,
so, I think Fafita, I hadn't thought about that, but I was like, you know what? He actually might be one of the best quarterback in the league this year.
Yeah, I mean, Morton's in the top 10, and then there's a chunk of Big 12, all of them together with Sorsby, Daniels, Fafita, and then even a couple of others. Yep.
All right, to the top 4, and this is almost chalk, but Arizona State jumps up a spot. Arizona State with Jeff Sims just keeps on winning games. Now 3 consecutive wins for them, and they are sitting there. They got, a sliver of a hope. Like if chaos were to rain down, they could slide their way into Arlington, but it's very unlikely that were to happen. Mm-hmm. And this is a team that's where they are, despite the fact that their quarterback's been gone for a few weeks, that Jordan Tyson was out of the lineup for a few weeks. Like, they just kept winning regardless. They lost to Houston in a close game, and they lost to Utah, and they had that bummer of a loss early on in week 2 against Mississippi State in Starkville. But, man, they're just super solid. They're so well coached, and I think Kenny Dillingham is very much a guy we're going to be talking about in the carousel for years to come, no matter how much he loves Tempe, and I hope he stays there. But you just be stupid to not kick the tires on him if you're Arkansas, LSU, some of these jobs. So they go up a spot, and 4 and 5 match up this week. The top 3, self-explanatory. That's kind of been the case for the last couple of weeks. Utah, BYU, and Texas Tech. I don't really need to dive too deep into that. I don't know where Utah would have slipped. It would have depended on how they would have lost that game. Did they rally and then lose close to K-State, or did they get blown out like they looked like they were going to get blown out there a couple of different times in that game? Regardless, they rally. Kudos to them for that.
I think they dropped 5. They
if they lose. Yeah. But Bert Ficklin, dude, I don't know if he can pass on a week-to-week basis at a level to win a bunch of big games, but he can sure as hell run his way to a bunch of big wins. That dude is.
Okay. Let's just see what they do with him down the line and how that his position morphs.
Can they keep him in the fold with Dampier back for another year?
Well, if I'm the collective and everything, I'm saying listen, Bird, let's go score some points this year, and then get you better as a passer, and then they have him and Dampier, and it's just they can deploy athleticism all the time. So it's going to be tough to retain him, especially since there will be people out there hunting Bird.
I'm sure, yeah.
But if I'm him, I'd stay at least another year and see how it could go, because I think there'll be more momentum on the backside of a second year, especially if he does get in and throw it a little bit more, than it would be to just be like, give me money and go.
Right.
Because I think Utah is going to come back pretty strong in a year.
They've shown they know how to deploy him and make him super effective when they use him.
And you and I, we saw him. We were at that game.
Saw him run over Baylor for 1 billion yards.
And he's quick and elusive, but also seemed like, I don't know how big he is. I don't know what his height.
He's your average 6'1"ish, 200, probably 205, maybe something like that.
So he can get through a little hole just with his strength and size. But people are loving the number. I mean, listen, we have some great Kansas State fans, but the chat room is just giving Andrew props on the emoji for K-State.
Look, he deserves the blame if you don't like it. He deserves the credit if you do.
It's hateful. So it's absolutely.
So that's how we look at it.
Oh, yeah, it was. I heard them talking about it.
Wait a minute. Who was involved also?
Garrett was also involved.
Garrett's over there sitting quiet.
Yeah, Garrett was also involved, but they were talking about it earlier. I kind of tuned it out because I like to be surprised.
Yeah.
And so, but I do remember them talking about it. So had I been called in court on the emoji case, on the emotional damage it did, the civil case for our K-State fans Bracket Cat in the chat room, I would have had to say I heard them talking about it. So yes, Garrett was involved. So he's, when you
co-conspirator
come to sue,
is what he is. He would get charges of some sort. But